you going, THT Plus peoples? Peter Birch here. It's Lunchtime Live. Hope you're enjoying your lunch, or about to start your lunch, or before you go to lunch, or while you're making your lunch. It's a session where me and Aidan Cousins, our community manager within Talking HealthTech, go live and talk about what's happening in the world of health tech, what's happening in the industry, and what's happening in the Talking HealthTech community. For those that don't know, Peter Birch, I host the Talking HealthTech podcast. We've got a website where we have the podcast. We've also got a glossary of health tech terms and a lot of content for you to consume. We also have a membership offering for individuals and companies who are passionate about learning and connecting about technology and healthcare. The membership is called THT Plus. If you become a THT Plus member, you get a ticket to our quarterly summits, which we'll talk about in a second. You get access to our premium podcast, so content that you wouldn't otherwise normally get. You get access to our community forum, which we're going to look at in a second. And you also got other exclusive stuff like other events we do, Share What You Know sessions, and a pair of Talking Health Tech socks as well. So we might give away a pair of Talking Health Tech socks today. I'm feeling like a giveaway is in order. So stay tuned to get yourself a pair if you're not already a member. We already have, I need to update this because we've got heaps more members than this, 140 something, 150 nearly, I think. So you'll be in good company, lots of people. I think we've hit the triple digits in terms of individuals, or if not, we're really close to. So that's what we do. I'm going to bring on Aidan, so I'm not talking to myself. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Good, man. Back into lockdown before I could get a haircut, so I'm rocking the long locks and a bit of a Malay, so it'll be good.
Malay, that's how we say it now. Yeah, it's drop a message in the chat if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook or on LinkedIn. It should have come up live. If not, if you're watching the recording, leave a comment anyway. But let us know how good you are at doing the home haircut things. I'm not sure, Aidan, have you attempted a home haircut as yet during these challenging times?
My girlfriend did last year. We're trying to see if we can do a buzz cut this year.
Yeah. Well, give it a crack. The good thing is that when we do these live streams, you don't see the back of my head, but we'll see whether we get, if we have a how about this? If we have a member who joins during this live stream, I can show you the back of my head because there was a bit of a
disaster.
Yeah. Let's just say, you know, alopecia, right? Like I don't have alopecia, but it's a serious condition many deal with, but it kind of looks like that. Okay, cool. So I'll keep my head facing this way. Great. Hey, so each week we talk about what's happening in the industry and in the community forum. If you've not checked out on talkinghealthtech.com, you can subscribe to our newsletter, and we do a weekly newsletter. It's actually talkinghealthtech.com/newsletter if you want to get there even faster. And on the newsletter, we do a bit of a roundup about what's happening, the digest of industry updates, and also things that we're doing within Talking HealthTech too. So we'll just go through some of it now. Spring Summit videos, bit of a surprise. We've made a couple available for anyone. Wow, how did that happen?
Oh, no.
We made it available for anyone to watch 3 of the sessions for a limited time. And so those 3 sessions are listed here, session 10, 11, and 12. And they're just on the Talking HealthTech website. And actually, if you just go to video, so if you've not got the newsletter, you don't have the link, just talkinghealthtech.com/videos, or just go there. And so, yeah, 12, 11, and 10, these 3 are available for you to watch now. We're going to turn off the access soon, so make use of it now. Get amongst it. So if you're interested about what goes on at these summits, they're not just like stuffy Zoom calls. We had really good engagement at the Spring Summit, didn't we, Aidan? You were there?
Yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, everyone had a lot of fun. There was some really interesting stuff, especially in those last 3 sessions of the day. Yeah.
Check it out. There'll be episodes of it's a bit of a spoiler alert. There'll be a couple of episodes of the podcast coming up that will feature some of those sessions. And also for our premium podcast subscribers, they'll be able to get even more of those sessions on their favorite podcast player as well. The other thing we're doing within the community is our Share What You Know Masterclass series. And we've got another session about branding and trademarks. Is that right, Aidan?
Yeah, correct. Next Monday, actually. So it's coming around quick.
Yeah. So this masterclass series, it's 5 sessions that one of our members, Neutromix, is working with us and collaborating with us on. Did you want to tell us a bit more about that, Aidan, since you're pretty active in there in the community and getting it set up?
Yeah, so the wonderful people at Neutromix reached out to us actually and wanted to get involved in discussing how best to go about looking after your startup's IP and patents. And we've been very fortunate to have Rosie lead us through an intro to IP 2 weeks ago now. And next week, we're going to be going on to branding and trademarks. So it's all very important stuff, especially as the number of startups in Australia continues to increase, and so does the funding. And yeah, it's just the perfect time to be discussing all this stuff.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. It's a good time and a good session for anyone to get involved. You don't have to be a THT Plus member to attend. If you are, you can go for free. Otherwise, you can get a ticket for $45, and that gets you access to the entire series as well as the recordings. We did session 1 already, and the recording is available. If anyone joins, they also get that. Hey, Stephen, thanks for watching live. Love it. You're on YouTube. I saw Peter Nguyen joined up as a free member on our website. That doesn't give you the right to see the back of my head. I'll only show you the back of my head with my poor at-home haircut styles if we have a paid member come on during this live stream. So that's that. Hopefully it doesn't disappoint.
I didn't realize haircuts were that expensive out where you live.
Hey, the value in the membership is in the socks alone, and then all the extra stuff like the summits is it's cream on top. So no, it's worth getting on board. Industry news. Health Engine posted some news on our website, so companies can post news, events, and jobs on our website, which is a good way to get some exposure, which we then share out to our newsletter. So check that out. More about the vaccine. Great to see 3 different options available through the platform now. Hey, we're doing a live. So we're amping up these live streams. So next week, it won't just be me and you, buddy. We'll have a guest.
And, I know. I'm actually so excited for this one. Bronwyn's been on fire recently with the And Health team. And what they're putting together with this new program is going to be fantastic, isn't it? Off the back of, I can't remember how many millions in funding support they received for it.
Yeah,
like through 70 something.
Yeah, there was the big drive, I think, connected to the CRC. I'm like Digital Health CRC. I'm not doing it justice, and I'm sure she'll be able to explain it much better. But great work going on at And Health, particularly in relation to commercialization and programs for organizations, early stage founders wanting to get help with the commercialization side of things. So And Health Plus, I think they've run it for a little bit now, and they've got the next cohort coming through, and you can apply and register now for And Health Plus, which is this program they run to help you get your thing commercialized, or at least thinking about that. And so Bronwyn has done a few information sessions about it through And Health, but she'll be jumping on live and going through us through the session with us to do that too. So someone's Peter set himself up in the community. So I get my little Slack notifications if anyone comes on, but there you go. Excellent. So we've got,
just to jump on the back of that too, it'll be the perfect time to talk about all that stuff because the applications will be closing at the end of that week or the week after, I believe. So you have to, it'd be the perfect time to jump on, ask your questions in the comments. We have her. She can't hide away from all the questions that you may have about how to get onto the program. So it'll be the perfect time if you had any burning ones to jump on and say hey to us.
You know what? If there's one person I know that doesn't hide away from any comments, it's Bronwyn. So she's a good fit for that one. So that's for sure. So definitely come along and participate in that live this time next week. So I'll see you then. The other one worth sharing is, did you see this one? Aidan, our good friends at Synapse, who also do the AIMAC, which is a platform to help you learn about medical administration and billing. It's like this cool website of just ridiculously good content that you can access, some of it for free. And I'll just turn my phone off. That's probably a good idea. And you can then there's extra content as well that you can access to learn about medical billing and other bits and pieces. Well, they've made it, because I think they've done a revamp of their website and their platform, and they've given an offer for all THT Plus members to get $30 worth of content off the website, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to be using that on the medical billing, or the how to bill video that's on there, because I think
Very
that's
important.
yeah, and with Margaret, the CEO and founder of Synapse, who is the only person I know that was doing a PhD in medical billing, is obviously driving a lot of that content, and she'll be on the show later this year. It's scheduled for in a little bit, and she spoke at the Winter Summit. So check out that for members. Did an episode, so 2 episodes on the podcast this week. Subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast player so you get notified every time a new episode comes out. We did an episode with Phil Hayes Sinclair from DropBio, who was at the
He's
Winter
doing
Summit.
some really interesting stuff now in the mental health space through DropBio. They're located at UNSW, I believe, aren't they, Pete? On the grounds of UNSW.
They would, yeah, I think their lab, like they've got a lab functionality there because they do this. I think the first thing they're focusing on is
biomarkers in depression, aren't they?
I think yes, but also chronic inflammation, I think, is the immediate focus. And then there is also there's a few aspects. Actually, he talks a little bit about it in this episode, funnily enough. So, but the first thing, chronic inflammation, how that kind of ties to everything else, and getting, that the like you said, the biomarkers, the indications of what's happening inside about why you feel on the outside, and some cool discussion that happens in that about how that'll work. So check that episode out. He's a good guy too, Phil. So check it out. And Klaus, always love a good Klaus episode, because I don't think he held back in this one, but he's given his perspectives on healthcare and if it's broken, and it's pretty good perspectives in terms of requiring having more of a consumer focus in some of the things that we do and why that's important right now. And lastly, that I mentioned that there's the a couple of the summit sessions are available to premium podcast subscribers. The first one's already out, which was this session. So you can listen on your favorite podcast player while you're washing the dishes or walking the dog or doing your exercise, whatever it is that you do while you're listening to podcasts. So check that out. We're going to jump into community, buddy.
Yep.
I'm a little bit behind. There's been some activity today, so I need to catch up on my notifications. So for those that don't know, on the Talking HealthTech website, there's a separate section for our community, which is kind of like where all of the cool kids go. Everyone passionate about technology and healthcare. It's really good engagement. We've got some sections that anyone can access here, which we'll talk about some of the content that's there. But you can also get access to your premium podcast episodes, replays of summits, and replays of some of the Share What You Know sessions we've done. And also these are really active, these discussion areas here where people are sharing their what they're working on and getting feedback. They're sharing their thoughts on what's happening in the industry. So lots going on. Where should I jump to first, buddy? What's caught your eye?
Let's jump into the think tank to start with, hey Pete.
Let's do it. Let's go to the think tank.
We didn't actually have a live stream last week, did we? We had a week off.
So we didn't do. We did. There's a bit to catch up on. So what's been happening in here?
Well, there was a big discussion around the Theranos and man, I've just completely forgotten her name again. The founder of Theranos. Regardless, her trial's on at the moment over in the US, and Elizabeth something, I saw.
Yeah, Elizabeth. Yeah. Holmes.
Yeah.
How funny is that we both forgot it? I was thinking, Emily?
Yeah. Well, there's this big question out at the moment is, because it's in the health tech space, obviously most people know the story by now about how they tricked a lot of people with their blood tests, and now it's become a civil lawsuit, and there could be other lawsuits come up in the future. And whether or not the health tech systems over there especially the startup companies, can be trusted with VCs coming in who may or may not know exactly what they're trying to invest in. And, sometimes people over exaggerate how good their startups are to get funding. So David started a very interesting discussion around that. And could there potentially be some kind of regulatory process in the future around how we look at startups in the health tech space? I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Pete. Is it just a red herring, or is it a broader systemic issue?
Look, I think the Theranos story is a fascinating one and a great one to kind of all dig into. I think generally in the startup world, it's finding that balance between selling the dream and the vision and the opportunity. Often, like angels / Series A or seed funding is just sold on a product that doesn't exist. It's sold on a whiteboard, and the potential that exists. So there's, good investors know they're going on that journey, and as long as they've done their due diligence and some of those commercialization pieces that no doubt Bronwyn and the And Health guys would go, deep into as well in terms of determining the regulatory risks and everything. I think we're on the right pathway generally as an industry. I think it's exciting that there's more and more interest from the investor crowd about technology and healthcare. That said, it results in a lot of, it's going to result in a lot of waste of time and effort. I think that's probably more of the issue, is just spinning wheels as opposed to, the regulatory side. I think, yes, the regulatory side of things is important, and that hopefully there aren't any kind of ones that go through that. So, but actually, Phil from Drop Bio, we talked really briefly about Theranos, because I think he was saying that, so in the podcast episode that's available now, anyone can listen to, he mentioned they launched, I think, basically as the Theranos story dropped. And so he's in his deck, like slides, and there are similar, not similar at all, but the concept of finger prick tests and everything. And everyone was like, well, is this just Theranos? So they've got a slide in their deck, which is, we're not Theranos because of X, Y, Z, which is all, I think the biggest issue was that it's all, and you think about the reasons people don't like AI in healthcare, I guess extending it to that conversation, where it was literally a black box, the Theranos thing, where you put a test in and then something happened and then it gave you a result. And what they were doing was people leave the room and then they kind of do stuff, and then, which is just crazy, right? So people are worried that's what happens with algorithms, where that's why there's those open ones where you see, why it's made a decision, and that's probably going to be better in healthcare. So, Phil was talking about how using regulatory to help your innovation and working with regulators, because they're also working it out. They're also dealing with some things. So having that active engagement in the industry about going on the journey with them is your best way, as opposed to feeling like you're constantly working against it. So yeah, that's an interesting thing that came out of that episode and tied to that point in the community.
Yeah, you brought up a few really interesting points that I think we'll have to discuss with Bronwyn next week around, do you think the investment in Australia in the health tech scene has increased? Like, there's a lot of people out saying we need more investment, we need more investment in Australian health tech, but there appears to be so many VC groups and private equity firms and just anyone with a little bit of spare cash laying around jumping into the health tech scene in Australia. Just interested what you thought about that as well.
Yeah, open to hearing particular examples, but in a general sense, I want to see less of the focus on let's get more investment so we can build more things, to more of the let's speak to more patients and clinicians to find out what problems best need to be solved, because you don't need a buttload of investment to build, prototypes and kind of like solutions that demonstrate that they're speaking to a workflow issue or an access issue or something like that. People talk about, investments needed because sometimes they talk about, well, investments needed so that we can pay doctors to use it, or we can pay for people to train people on how to follow this process, but maybe the process isn't right in the first place. And so it's, yes, I think there were a lot of conversations when the podcast first started. A lot of our conversations revolved around the fact that Australia isn't very good at innovation. We're good at being a customer of services, and we're not doubling down in terms of our investment into health tech. I think there's always more that we can be doing to retain good talent, because we're very good at creating innovative ideas, but then they get built elsewhere in the world, and people who are very smart and good at these things and have come to school here and uni and everything take their skills elsewhere where they feel like they're part of a more innovative and kind of thriving place. And then we'll probably come back later and use the thing as a customer of the product, which is kind of owned overseas. So, you see the graphs and you see how it's picking up in Australia. So I don't know. I mean, it's going in the right direction. I mean, maybe I'm overly optimistic, and I always see the positive side of things. I'd love it if there's anyone watching live across any of the platforms. If you've got some thoughts on it, if you think if we're lacking in terms of investment in the country. But yeah, let's pick up the conversation with Bronwyn next week, and we can dive into it some more.
Yeah.
What else in the community?
There's been a lot of industry updates around the world. Our good friend Wei Yeo from Umbos, him and his team scored $200,000 in social enterprise investment.
Yep.
In the past week to support regional families accessing OT care, which is just so needed at the moment, especially if you're like up here in Port Macquarie where I am, where we're now back into lockdown as of today. And if we go anywhere into the major cities, we have to quarantine when we come back. So having that virtual consultation with regional areas is just so important, especially at the moment.
Yep, I agree. That's great.
Yeah, we've had Honeysuckle Health get the 5-year green light, which is interesting.
What does that mean?
So that means they have authority to purchase services and manage contracts for the next 5 years in Australia. So it must be some kind of regulatory thing. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting.
Cool. That's happening in there. And there's some stuff happening in other parts of the world too. Like we've split out the community to cover other parts of the world. Some updates in Asia. That was last week. Some more raising.
Africa is a really interesting place at the moment. I'm not sure if we talked about this in our last live stream, but people in Singapore and the VC firms over there have been encouraged to invest in the Africa tech boom. So it feels like, as the GIF shows just there, it looks like the world's trying to connect to Africa. It's one of the fastest growing areas in the world, apparently. So it'll be interesting to see where they go in the next, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, interesting.
And and we've had Cochlear from Australia discover markets in sub-Saharan Africa as well, where they're working closely with local distributors and medical specialists in hospitals in Kenya, Nigeria, Tanzania, Uganda, and Namibia. So it's interesting to see these big companies, especially like Cochlear in Australia, going over to different continents and trying to expand. Yeah,
I always find it. I'm not familiar with that one in particular, but from my experiences ages ago of medical services in areas of need globally, for example, Papua New Guinea, and you think about all the hospitals and the need for ability to have an X-ray machine or different devices, like resources and requirements to enable them to deliver healthcare services. But it's one thing to buy a machine and chuck it in the hospital, but you go back there and it's probably not come out of the box, or it's there and never used, or it requires maintenance, no one's done the training. And so in the end, it's like, it's one thing to have an interest in the area. It's the ongoing support of the region that's required. So it goes beyond commercial. I think there's a lot to unpack there. But hey, I mean, good right steps and important part of the world to get right. What's happening with my full screen thing? That's weird.
If we jump to the United States quickly, Johns Hopkins released their last fiscal year results, and startups bred out of their university reached $1 billion in funding within one fiscal year. Isn't that insane?
Whoa. Yikes.
Yeah.
I wonder how we'd get if we did similar stats in Australia, what that would look like. But probably not.
Well, last night the UTS Startups Awards were on,
Yeah.
which I attended, and it's really interesting to see how our universities in the last, say, about 3 years have started out their own, incubator programs through the university to help. Like at the moment, there's a COVID innovation grant, which is organized through different universities.
Mm.
And the startups that are spun out of those universities that if they are successful can win a couple of $100,000 in cash to help their startup grow.
Nice.
So it's an interesting funding model at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's the right place to be incubating it from, and providing that support. People ask me often about when are we going to see a step change in terms of how healthcare is delivered and innovation in healthcare, and it's not going to be from this generation. It's going to be from generations coming through, and the new people coming through with fresh perspectives and skill sets that they've taken. So hopefully from the learning institutions, we're embedding the right kind of critical thinking and innovative thought processes and commercial acumen to be able to take an idea and execute it, because that's when we're going to see a real difference, I think. Very cool.
And lastly, I'd just like to touch on the internal research from Facebook and Instagram that was leaked in the last 2 weeks. I'm not sure if you've heard much about that.
No. What was that?
There was this internal research done at Facebook and Instagram where they were looking at mental health and how their platforms are very toxic, particularly for teenage women, but also for all genders at all ages. They were leaked by a whistleblower, and now it appears Facebook and Instagram could be in a lot of trouble. Some of the leading pundits over in America are comparing it to the tobacco companies back in the day, where the attorney generals of the different states went after them after not showing exactly what their products were doing once they found out what their products were doing. So it's a very interesting piece that, the mental health side is very affected by social media these days.
I mean, what do you difference between, that's fascinating, because you think, tobacco companies, you've got a physical product that you're selling that people are putting in their body, and that's what it is. This is a platform utilizing technology that we're well on board. Like, that boat is well out there now. We're all in when it comes to technology and connectivity. And so if it's not Instagram and Facebook, it's any other social media platform that exists now or in the future. But how do you control that? It's just you can try and put controls around, but what a interesting point in our kind of point in humankind, where we're changing how we talk we're changing how we engage with each other and how we process information. And I
still haven't met you face to face, so without these social media channels, I wouldn't be at Talking HealthTech. But it's very interesting, isn't it, that with this big push in mental health, all this information is coming out at the moment about just how bad certain online websites are for everyone's mental health. I don't know what you can do about it, but
well, it's important to address the issues, I guess, and kind of build some things around to try and do it in a way that's not necessarily regular. Maybe it's a combination of regulation, how the things are built and how they operate. Yeah, but as soon as you put more regulations around it, people will kick up. And what a world! It's where we are now. Fascinating, Richard. Thank you for sharing in the chat there too some of your thoughts around genetic testing and insurance and all of the. It's a lot of moral hazards, isn't it? Like in everything that we kind of talk about within, it becomes quite philosophical sometimes. But and that's true too. Some interesting links to check out there and some Nature articles. Thank you for sharing that in the chat, Richard, and LinkedIn. So if you are on any social media platform and you're listening in, drop a thing. I did say I'm going to give away a pair of Talking HealthTech socks. So if you're, see, this is really testing it now. If someone's actually watched halfway through, like up until 30 minutes, then all you need to do is drop a message in your chat, whatever you're doing, which says Birch Merch, like hashtag Birch Merch. It's one. Drop it in the chat in Facebook or in LinkedIn or YouTube. The first one to do it gets a pair of socks. And I know that a couple of people who've already responded on different platforms are already members. So thank you for joining. So you don't need another pair of socks unless you don't have yours yet, and I can get yours out there.
Can we explain where the hashtag Birch Merch comes from?
Yeah, I think it came from in the community, didn't it? It was
yeah.
I think it was
Dina Scott made a lovely pillow of your face on it, and we still haven't seen it as part of the THT offering.
No, she didn't make a pillow necessarily. She made a cut. So what happened is that she was doing an interview for the podcast, and she had because it was virtual, she wanted to make sure she was speaking to a person, to me, because we've met a number of times. So she made a cutout of me and then shared a picture with me prior. And and then I think we started talking about, well, what other things can we put my face on? And then we decided a custom pillow would be really good. She didn't actually make a pillow, did she? Or I think we just talked about it. If she did, then that's scary. But Stephen reckons he can win the socks. If you don't have a pair of socks, Stephen, we've got to get you out a pair. I thought we did. So we will make sure we do. I'll send you the sock survey thing that we've got. But if we didn't, then yeah, we'll get you a pair of socks. Active member in the community, previous member of the month. And like I mentioned in that post, to first person who subscribed to the newsletter. So, well, who's still on there anyway. Oh. So, yeah, that's a random fact that you didn't know, is that
he's the real OG, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. So I can't remember when and why I started the newsletter, and I'm sure there's people who have been removed from it since. But in terms of the person who subscribed first compared to everyone else that's on there, that's Stephen. So we'll make sure we get your socks out to you, buddy. And but if anyone else is watching live, there's your last chance. If you do hashtag Birch Merch, I'll send you a pair of socks if you're not already a member. Cool. I think that's the week, buddy. I think we're going to be we've got to do our hair or something when we've got a guest coming next week. I feel like it's, we're pretty relaxed. We can still be relaxed with Bronwyn, but she'll bring
it. Is this a suit and tie affair, you reckon?
We should, from the half ones that you do. But we need to get you set up with a good mic and everything too now that you're doing so many more live streams. So, but I like the placement of the guitar in the background. It's
I know it's looking good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good live stream stuff. We're getting there. Excellent. So, look, thanks everybody. We might wrap it up there, and remember to check out talkinghealthtech.com for all the things we do, and become a member. You'd love it. And all the best. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we will be here.